live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube, wherever you may be, however you may be listening. A little tardy to the party, but that's okay. We certainly did enough of it on Saturday. Good to be with you. Stop in, stay a while. Alive and in living color every weekday, every Wednesday, not every weekday. I don't pay these guys nearly enough. Live in living color every Wednesday evening, 6:30 Central Time, coast to coast. And we are touching on a documentary today, The Hatchet-Wielding Hitchhiker, now streaming on Netflix, came out a couple of weeks ago. Kind of a spur-of-the-moment review since there really wasn't much else to talk about this week or so. We do have a couple new releases next week. We will be touching on the lesser relevant of the two next week. That's next week's issue, though. But today we are talking Hatchet-Wielding Hitchhiker. We're also going to be talking Peacock and just some general developments with some streaming services. I thought it'd be a good time to kind of get our finger back on the pulse of the streaming wars here. And there's been some new changes, new developments with Peacock and Netflix. HBO Max is not clogging the headlines yet, so maybe that's the calm before the storm before they do something stupid like Homer in The Simpsons. But moreover, though, we did some partying this weekend. I'm going to let you kind of take the reins on this, Dom, just because I don't want to throw out anything you don't want, said about, obviously personal life and anything. But man, let me just say this. This man over here, of course you're not wearing one today, the trademark blue polo.
Oh, yeah, it's dark blue. It's dark blue.
Is it dark blue? Okay. I couldn't tell if it was black or what. But this man in the trademark blue polo threw the best wedding I've ever been to. The loveliest venue I think I've ever been to in terms of just everything in terms of the food, in terms of the ambiance and everything. I could not be happier for you and Chelsea, Dom, and it was a hell of a wedding.
Yeah, thank you very much. So Chelsea and I, we got married back in May of 2022. We eloped. Everyone knew that we were engaged, so but we wanted to do that for us, but we knew that we had a big wedding to throw, kind of the wedding for everyone else, so to speak. But honestly, we obviously invested ourselves into it and it paid off in dividends. So did it in a church. Got the blessing of the marriage in church, but then we went off to the Rialto Square Theater down in Joliet. That is a union house where Chelsea's dad used to work. Still probably could work easily. It's a union local 2 house. And the people that work there are fantastic. Reminds me, I need to write their review on Google. But yeah, the Rialto Square Theater, that rotunda and that thrust, basically when you walk into the marquee, it's a gorgeous place. We got literally everyone we talked to was complimenting us on the venue. And we knew that we did not hardly had to do any decorating because, of course, Chelsea's dad did anyway because he's extra. But we hardly had to do any decorating because that place did so much heavy lifting in terms of just the beauty of it all. And yeah, dude, Steve and Joe, you guys showed the hell up, especially during the dancing. Steve in particular emceed my reception, and I could not ask for a better MC. You know what's funny is that Grace, our mutual friend Grace Blackford, was there as well. I emceed her reception.
Oh, cool.
So you emceed mine. So I told her to complete the circle, she needs to MC yours whenever you get along to that. Then we'll get a full circle. I don't know. But yeah, dude, it was.
I'll have her sing mine.
It's not her band, but she is. I think she would. No, not anymore because she's in Ohio now. That may be difficult, but she was in a wedding band for quite some time. But in any case, yeah, dude, it was crazy. The sound people that we got, they provided us the sound equipment, and I'm very thankful for Technical Theater Services, among many other vendors that made our day special. But they do not do the actual DJing. They are friends of my father-in-law, Chelsea's dad. So, but they do not do actual DJing. So what wound up happening is I compiled 3 hours of music, a lot of cut, by the way. A lot of them were cut from on the editing bay, but also cut just what we didn't have time because the food came on a little late. Still good food. It came out late. So there was some memery that got cut from that night alone. But you would never have noticed. But yeah, dude, that was a hell of a time. And these gentlemen looked so damn good. Joe, cut to both of you gentlemen in suits. I'm kidding. You didn't have that prepped. But
I was gonna say, I'm like, no one sent me that
I know.
No, I got it right
I
here.
should have.
I
should have.
No, it's all right. It's all right. You guys looked fantastic.
Joe, I love
it's
the
so
photo
weird.
of the three of us. I love the photo.
It's a good photo.
The three of us.
It was a great photo. And Joe, you did not. By the way, remind me. I mean, I'll see it, but the photographer, videographer had to cut out a little earlier. Not even earlier. It was on time, but again, everything kind of got pushed back. But he did take a picture of the three of us. So remind me. So a really good professional DSLR photo. But yeah, dude.
Oh, I'd love for you to email that.
100%. I will at the moment I get it. Joe, you looked very dapper, and it's so weird seeing you in. I'm assuming you were wearing contacts, right?
Yeah. Whenever I go,
weird seeing your contacts.
Whenever I go to events like that, I'll actually like get fancy. I'll put on contacts and everything. But that's like an occasion I'll do it for. I won't do it for work. Yeah. I won't probably do it forever. Like when we live stream this, because it's just like this is just my Monday through Friday like typical shit.
Yeah, dude. But you weird for me, but still look fantastic. And Steve, of course, you and your lovely. It was so nice. It was so nice shaking Catherine's hand, saying hello, exchanging pleasantries for about 30 seconds before going off, and not even dancing, going off and greeting the other 160 people at the reception. I mean, if you've been to a wedding, you know how it is. So.
Yeah, you don't say anybody who I mean, like I said, wedding is a totally different breed. But like I hosted
our reception.
Well, you know, you guys, I hosted that 10-year party a few years ago and stuff like that. And it's like you're just constantly moving. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're constantly
It's moving. A blur.
It is. It very much is. I can only imagine on your wedding day. But yeah, my girlfriend Catherine and I had a great time. I think the only shitty thing about your wedding was the weather. I think that was the only shitty thing.
It was shitty, but it could have been much shittier. It actually wasn't horrible as what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, we didn't get like a foot of snow. That freezing rain did suck going home. What time?
The freezing rain was dangerous.
What time did you get home?
Oh God, okay. I went to sleep until like 3:30, because there was one of the bridesmaids and her husband and a cousin of Chelsea's were staying over at our place. So the five of us got ordered Domino's, and that is probably the best tasting Domino's in my life. No joke. But
I'm sure eating Domino's in your Sunday best and everything on your wedding day, that's 100%. Probably gonna be the thing you remember the most.
Dude, it's for real. Like it is not a joke. The bride and groom or the people getting married, they do not have time to eat. We got like 3 bites of the chicken and the beef, and then we had to just go and do other things during the reception. And like you see these pictures of bridesmaids with like Big Macs and shit eating that after their own reception. That is totally accurate. That is not a rarity. But yeah, dude, it was a great. I could go on for hours, and we probably will after. Go on for a good time after the show off camera. But last thing I'll say is that at some point during the dancing, I did land full body on my knee. So it is just this big like on the terrazzo floor. So it is just thankfully I did get an X-ray, and no fractures. No fractures on the bone.
Was that during your solo dance, or was that during the big?
No, you might have been gone by then, actually, or like close. Really? So it was like halfway through the dancing proper. I don't even remember what song it was.
Yeah, I left right after I announced last call. I left.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
So it was later.
Did your duty. I appreciate it.
You know, absolutely. I just wanted if it was like a clear day, we would have stayed till the lights came back on.
Fair enough. That I was thinking that, but it is what it is. I know we did not want to do a summer wedding, particularly a summer outdoor wedding, because everything is just jam packed. It's harder to get people together, even with the bad weather. It can be harder. I don't know,
There's
but
more obligations.
I mean, the height of my season, Joe, you can relate to this, is during the summer season. So it would have been hard for me personally, but yeah, dude, at the end of the day, though, everyone got home safe. Everyone had fun. Constant compliments on the venue, on the ice cream, bro. I thought the ice cream was an afterthought at first, but when September started playing, I was like, all right, everyone come up to the floor. No, just a giant line to the ice cream. And I'm like, okay,
well,
I'm
ice cream was
this.
good. My compliments from Catherine too, because the ice cream was delicious.
Nitro ice cream.
Yes.
Nitro ice cream. Look that up. I found that out when I bought the vendor for that. So I'm like, okay, that's cool.
That ice cream was
Polonia
good.
Catering. Thank you.
That ice cream was good. I don't know what that blue cake was, but that blue cake was delicious, dude.
It was in the lighting. It probably looked blue, but it is a purple yam cake. It is ube cake. It is a Filipino. That is ube. Well, right. it's like a regular. It was a regular sized cake, right?
Yeah.
Was it next to the orange cake, the mango cake?
Yeah.
There is a franchise here it's getting everywhere now. Red Ribbon. It's called Red Ribbon. It's a Filipino mostly bakery shop, but they got some other treats as well. Other foods.
That sounds good.
I don't know if they're in Iowa. Joe, you'll find one around here somewhere in Chicagoland for sure. Definitely the western suburbs.
Okay.
But they're not everywhere. California for sure, and of course Philippines. But yeah, dude, there's some. They sell some good stuff.
The beef was really good. The beef was really good. I told Catherine though, man. I said, you know what? I was really crossing fingers though for some ponds. That I really was.
Yeah, we were joking. It's like, should we have gone full in on the Filipino catering? Not 100%. I am glad we did what we did, but we did ask the caterers. Last thing I'll say here, we did ask the caterers to make lumpia egg rolls. Did you guys get a taste of the egg rolls?
Were those one of the appetizers?
I think it was one of the appetizers. I'm pretty sure.
You might have then. I thought we did see something that looked like egg rolls.
Yeah, they're egg rolls. They are egg rolls. Yeah.
I had the bacon wrapped dates and spinach artichoke, like something. It was like a cheesy artichoke thing.
We picked the best of the best of those appetizers because we were like, these are all our hits, our personal favorites.
And don't think your boy didn't notice in the auditorium either. Don't think your boy did not pause for a minute and hear Louisiana Woman, Mississippi Man playing.
Hell yeah.
And Amos Moses.
Putting it together, I'm like, oh, I have so much room for music. No, I do not. Dude, I almost put in the GTA San Andreas rap where CJ actually raps the theme song. I don't know if you guys know that
weapon
exists.
Skill, stamina, muscle, fat, and
sex appeal. Dude, oh my God. God help me if I ever get my own radio station with absolutely no hold bars, save for FCC rules. It will be absolute chaos.
I already know. I've joked with people. I said WSJP got a Montana 300 appreciation hour. Got a rumor song every hour.
I almost put in rumor during that country section to make that the joke, but then Chelsea and I listen. There's some F-bombs in this, and there are children there, so we can't. And
the clean version of that song, "Rascal," doesn't do it justice either. The clean version of that song doesn't do it justice to begin with. Yeah. But
could you imagine though in the Rialto theater? Hearing rumor go off.
Thank God you didn't, because we were me, Joe, and Catherine were congregating there in the auditorium before everything. We had a couple drinks, stuff. Oh God, you would have been out of Jim Beam by 6 o'clock. If you had rumor bumping, and then from Conway Twitty to rumor. Oh, you're gonna get me twisted.
Hey, I'm not saying that can't happen somewhere in the future, whatever context. We'll figure it out. But yeah, Chelsea was saying this is cocktail hour. Pace yourself. You have like 3 hours of going hard during dancing. Pace them. I'm like, okay, I guess so.
It was a great time, man. Hats off to you and Chelsea and your lovely families, too. Got to mix and mingle with your mother and father. Talked to Chelsea's dad only briefly, but got to mix and mingle with a couple of your relatives as well. So very nice. And it was great to hang with you, Joe. Appreciate we went for lunch after the initial ceremony. We went for lunch, the three of us and stuff like that. So nice. Good to see you too. And what was the last thing you probably don't remember, Don, but the last thing I said to you, I gave you a big hug and everything. We said, thanks for coming. Thanks for doing everything. And I grabbed you. I hugged you. And I said, talk to you Wednesday, brother.
Yeah. I remember that. I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah. I give Dom and Chelsea's wedding 4 stars. I can't wait to
yeah, the review on Facebook. Yeah. I'm like, he did not. Oh my God.
Going Guanzon, what it do, baby? 4 stars. And hell, I'm not trying to take all the credit over here because you did have some what looked to be some amazing photographers, but I will say that like I do think I got a pretty great shot of you and Chelsea dancing.
Though, yeah, that dance, she's been looking at that photo like since you took it, since you shared it with us.
That's a gorgeous. She's got like the Cinderella style dress, but she's got that
People
Cinderella
been saying that
pose right there.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, I actually showed it on screen as we were talking about the wedding. I was just flipping through the photos of us.
The blue, yeah, the lighting
I'm glad
too.
I'm glad I took my phone out and took pictures. I wanted to get pictures of the three dances. I wanted to get at least a few photos of each.
I know we need to get to movies, but we poured a lot of the budget into videography and photography. We hired the good shit.
It's not a bad place to consolidate your money.
Expensive, because I won't hesitate to say we went hard on that, because that 50 years from now, I'm going to be looking at those photos, and I want the best of the best, and I cannot wait to share with you gentlemen, some of which you guys are on there. We're lucky enough to be in part of that camera, be captured by those cameras.
It's going on my desk at work. It's going on my desk.
I'm telling you, it's going everywhere, for sure. Yeah,
I cannot wait. We will seg very smoothly into movies after Dom and Chelsea's wedding recap. Really grateful, and again, privileged to be the MC for that event too.
Thank you.
Really fun time. Thank you so much.
I was getting compliments for you.
Yeah, thank you very much though for that opportunity too, and I loved Pastor Megan too. She was great. I got to talk to her a little bit.
Oh, she's a spunky woman.
She was funny. She's
wise.
She's good people. It takes a lot for me to get into a church too. I'll say that much. but anyway, at any rate, the walls didn't start bubbling, thankfully. But anyway, we were talking nice uplifting segue. Talking the hatchet wielding hitchhiker new documentary on Netflix. Watched this a couple weeks ago with my girlfriend, because she didn't know what it was, and I remember this. Here's the funny story about this, my little origin story. And then I want to ask you guys. I did not see the original viral video. I found this via the Shmo Yoho song about maybe 6 months after it happened, and Kai was already in prison. That's when I found it. I remember it was months after. It was months after everything had went down. I missed this viral moment inexplicably that happened in 2013. But the Shmo Yoho song, the remix Smash Smash Smash, was what I saw first. And then I went back and watched the original viral clip. Did either one of you know about this before watching this?
I think I knew just the clip of him saying smash, and I never watched. I didn't even know the original incident. So no, that's pretty much a no from me.
I didn't know anything about this. When you sent the trailer to like the chat or whatever, and you're like, hey, I think we should review this come this date. I was like, dude, I've never seen this. I'm like, this was a sensation at some point. Like, I must have been out of the loop back in 2013 when it came to like memes and everything.
Yeah, I don't blame you either. Like, I remember in 2013, I was big into like DJ Steve Porter and like songifying things thanks to Shmo Yoho and everything. So that was like where I found this, and that's exactly what I did.
The only one I do know is he's climbing in your window. He's these people.
Yeah, hide your kids, hide your wife.
Yeah.
And also the theme song to Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt was by them.
Oh yeah, I do remember hearing about that. Yeah, I do remember them, the Gregory brothers. As yes. They're known. They've made a handful of bangers, I'll say that. But I remember the songified remix of Kai, the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker. It was for those who don't know, it was a moment on KMPH TV, and it was a viral news report that was in Fresno, California. And it was adding to the insanity of the story was this sportscaster who had to play news reporter for the first time in his career. He had to go to the scene of like this accident that occurred, and he ran into one of the eyewitnesses who was also partially, tangentially involved, named Caleb Lawrence McGivelry, known as Kai. And he gave this viral, spunky, just like endlessly charismatic, weird surfer bro energy in this interview. and it propelled him to like superstardom overnight. The video went viral. It circulated, especially because of the line, as Dom alluded to earlier, that smash, 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 as he hit the perpetrator who caused the accident and was about to attack this woman with a hatchet. He hit him 3 times over the head, bludgeoned him basically with a hatchet. One of my favorite like reviews of this so far, when I was rewriting my own review, was I stumbled upon on Mubi. This one guy wrote, "Only in America could this dude become famous." And he's not wrong, because this documentary by Colette Camden, which is on Netflix right now, explores basically over the course of 87 minutes, unpacks the viral video, and then what ultimately happened, which took a dark turn just a couple of months later, him getting accused and then convicted of murder, and McGilvory, Kai, is currently serving a 57-year prison sentence. So this is a rapid fall from grace movie, to say the very least. So I've been talking a lot. I'll throw it over to you, Joe. Your initial thoughts on the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker.
My initial thoughts were, going into it, I asked Steve and Dom, I'm like, hey, like, you know, what do you think would be the best way to watch this movie for someone like me who did not see the Songify version of this, did not know anything about this? Should I just jump in the documentary, or should I watch a few videos and then go in? They recommend that I watch a few videos. So I watched the original interview, and then I watched the Songify stuff. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to act like I'm in this moment of time right now. And I'm going to insert myself into the documentary and just play on out there and see how the events of everything I know from this point onward play out, to where he goes on Jimmy Kimmel, to where he almost gets a reality TV show from the producer of the Kim Kardashian show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Almost doing music, everything. Like, you know, the amount of opportunities that were swinging this guy's way until he was convicted of murder. My initial impression is this. The first hour, and this documentary is only like an hour and 34 minutes. The first hour of this thing was really interesting, seeing how much the media will take anybody and just go all in on them in terms of gambling. Being like, yeah, you know what? This is getting clicks. This is getting views. We can give them a show. We can give them a record label. We can put them on Jimmy Kimmel. We can do this. We can do that. And just how much of that stuff can happen if you're just getting 15 minutes of fame for like a month. Like how many opportunities can swing your way, and how it can all go away in like an instant. I found that thing to be really interesting. I also found it to be really interesting, just like the entire time I was like watching this, I'm like, how the hell did I not know anything about this? It was funny too, because it keeps cutting back to social media and like the posts that were coming out around that time, and just seeing how many like likes and views, interactions stuff was getting from either Jimmy Kimmel or other celebrities tweeting about this, or even Kai himself, the news report, and just the video itself as well. I was like, dude, how the hell did I miss all of this? So for me, that first hour was really engaging, seeing how that all played out, and it kept me like interested like the entire time. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I'm loving this. I love seeing where this is going and everything. I know we're gonna be taking our intermission soon, so I just want to I'm gonna throw over to Dom for his initial impressions, and then we can go further in.
What didn't help the situation, I noticed right away starting off, is that the person that discovered him was a sports news broadcaster who just for that particular day was assigned the day job, the day desk, just going out, literally sitting by a scanner and then finding a car crash or whatever this incident became. So it was like he was doomed from the start in terms of the fame, the first half aspect, where, yep, you're going to go from here to internet sensation to reality television, potentially to Jimmy freaking Kimmel, like late night TV. And it felt like this was over the course of like years. No, this happened in like weeks, and yeah, three weeks. And then by the time by the time we get to the murders, it's like 6 months. But still, a blink of an eye that all this happens. And it is so fascinating. And man, just the fact that it went back to 2013, that is a moment in time for all of us, but for me especially. That is, I am personally just starting college, and the whole world just started opening up into something, and it wasn't until 2016 that it really turned into something. But yeah, dude, I do appreciate how this, at some point, it does feel like it's going to launch into a condemnation of that that media roller coaster. But I am glad that it didn't necessarily attack it so head on that it became, proselytizing. Because I think it's more of a case of, okay, it's kind of self-evident. If you got two brain cells rubbed together, you can figure out that this is a bad thing. This is kind of a mess. And also, he is just inherently just a weird dude. Just the revelation of Kai as the movie goes along, mirroring everyone else finding out about him, because he's such a mystery, even to this day. And he's like, what can you even get from him? This guy is either awesome that it's like, oh, he's like a rock star from the 80s where they do all that wild shit. He's like Keith Moon from the Who. He'll just blow up toilets out of nowhere with firecrackers. Isn't that a wacky story? And then 6 months later, oh, he probably killed a guy. Okay, cool. So it's just completely unpredictable. And I did not know, I didn't even know that he went to prison. Like literally, it was just the meme is all I knew of. So this was an absolute roller coaster for me as well. And it pretty much, it just had to nail that arc, and it absolutely did for me, to the point where when you compare the beginning and the end, not just of the story itself, but just how, like, I think like this turns into true crime. This turns into a true crime like show by the end of it, and it gets really creepy. And that is the fascinating thing about Kai, is that he's so energetic, so fun. He's a hero, and then by the end, he is something else entirely. Just the footage that they're showing on silent with the music, it's like, that is creepy, dude. And it's like, what has he done? And yeah, dude, it was something else for me, Steve.
I'll say that I'm going to be the more critical voice here, I think, of this thing. This story is fascinating. This story is endlessly fascinating. But this is why documentaries, I've always said, are a challenge to review. Documentaries are always a challenge to review, as interesting as they are, because I've wrestled with this writing reviews for years too. Is that it's sometimes it's difficult to figure out where is my extreme interest in the story affecting my opinion on the movie. Like that's kind of the tug of war I usually have with documentaries. Is it's like, is this documentary really effectively made, or am I just entrenched in the story so much that I don't really care and I'm overlooking flaws? And in this case, I feel like The Hatchet-Wielding Hitchhiker is the classic case of a documentary that tells a fascinating, gripping story, but doesn't assemble it into a very thorough nor thoughtful analysis of the subject. You touched on it a little bit too, Dom, with talking about the media, the media angle of this, and the glorifying of sometimes problematic individuals and whatnot, as in this case.
I'm really mixed on it. Yeah, it's like, could they have gone into it? But if they did, would it have been too much? Would it have been like beating it over the head with us? Because for us media attentive folks, you especially, Steve, we hear this story over and over and over again. Even though we didn't know this story, we knew this kind of arc, this template. It happens all the freaking time. Doesn't always end with murder, but it definitely is a rise and a fall, and social media and the reality TV and all this stuff. It's a story we've seen time and time again. So at one point, is it cliche for us? Are we the wrong audience? Should it have gone further? Are we too smart? Are we too media literate for our own good? The three of us? I don't know, Joe.
And that's
or
just
Steve. Yeah, Steve.
That's just one of the angles that I have, and I'll address more after the intermission. I'll let Joe have final word. That's just one of the angles that this movie I think misses. That I think it's just one of the angles. I'll bring up the other couple. I'll bring up the other couple again after the intermission. Joe, you could send us into intermission with your thoughts.
Dude, okay, I'm glad you said that, because I was like, I'm gonna start off nice and then I'll see what these guys say. Because I was saying like, oh yeah, the first hour about of this, but like it's really like the 45 minutes of this. It's interesting seeing this story play out. This documentary doesn't go really further past that. This documentary is like any YouTube video of like, what happened. And it's just like, well, this happened and this happened and this happened. If you ever seen that YouTube channel called What Happened, A, I think they do a better job explaining stuff and analyzing it. But B, like, they just literally play things out from beginning to end, as you're supposed to do with a documentary. But usually documentaries go a little bit further into detail with stuff. A good example is Won't You Be My Neighbor? That encompasses the whole life of Fred Rogers and everything that he did, but you go further into like, why it was so special, what appeal it had to adults, what appeal it had to children at that time, what happened when it entered the 21st century and people were being more political with, Fred Rogers, and stuff like 9/11 happened, and like, how did Fred Rogers handle that, explaining it to kids. Like, they tell you the story of Rogers, and then they also encompass everything that makes everything surrounding that show like so much more interesting. This, it's like, here's Kai, and here's murderous rampage Kai, and it's just like, okay, like by the time it was like, they were like, all the producers and stuff of like, Jimmy Kimmel, the Kardashian show, they were all like, yeah, we started realizing like, oh man, maybe we messed up after that, and like after he was done with Jimmy Kimmel, we didn't know what to do with him. Dude, the interest for me of this movie just plummeted. Even when they brought up like, oh, he murdered someone, I'm like, well, you started the damn documentary with this, so like, I knew we were gonna get to this point. So it's like, okay, what did he do? And then they explain it, and I'm like, all right, so he did it. All right, so like, let's go. Dude, they like, Dom is right. Like, they do treat it like true crime, but it's like every true crime documentary I've seen. It's nothing,
down to the music.
It's and like, it doesn't help too that they don't get to the murder with like 25 minutes left in the movie.
They rush through that thing. They don't go through it at all. It's literally like watching a 25-minute episode of like something from the ID channel. Like, it literally was
like the 5 minutes we spent with this one hack frontman of this lounge band. Couldn't we have spent more time assessing like the possible detective theories on the murder?
Thank you. And all he added to the story was, well, I think he said that he laced the weed, and it's just like, well, actually, we found out that the weed wasn't laced, of the driver that he was getting a ride from.
And I was embarrassed. I was uncomfortable to be seen with him while they're showing a picture of him like this or some damn thing. Yeah. Like, I'm just like, retroactive bullshit over here.
We can cut to break.
We will cut to break right now. We'll be back in a few seconds. That's exactly why I wanted to talk about this movie, because my girlfriend and I had a great discussion, and we are right now back with more about the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker, now streaming on Netflix after the Zoom-sponsored intermission on Sleepless with Steve. and better than ever. Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube. Took a minute there in the green room for the Zoom sponsored intermission. Was briefly iterating to Joe, seeing The Whale last night. Finally, after like what felt like 3 months after everybody else in the world saw it, we finally got it out here in Eastern Iowa. One showing, 7:30 last night. I didn't get home till like after 10. And I'm exhausted today because I had a hell of a time sleeping after watching that thing last night. That was not a movie to lift the damn spirits. I like 10 minutes in, I was like, oh, this thing's going to depress the shit out of me. And I was alone in the theater, too, because everybody else was alive. I was alone in the theater at 7:30 at night watching this movie about a 600-pound Brendan Fraser who's like slowly killing himself. Oh, God, it's not a good movie to begin with. It's probably the best acted bad movie you could make. The best acted bad movie you could make. Like the Oscar nominations are justified.
Yeah,
they are justified.
That is literally the consensus I've heard about it. Is that performance-wise, this movie's great. From Sadie Sink, Brendan Fraser, the supporting actress that got nominated from
Hong Chow.
Thank you. I heard like performances across the board, great. Everything else about this movie is just kind of average to just a little like it just goes way too far into the whole depressing side of this story.
I don't mind a depressing movie, but like this movie was like at times it was cruel. It was downright cruel. Like, and it mistakes cruelty for empathy. And like it bothered me last night. I didn't write the review last night. I got home too late, but it like bothered me all day today thinking about it. There's some scenes from that movie that like are still haunting me, which is a credit to Aronofsky in a way, but there's a reason he didn't get the directing nod and the movie didn't get Best Picture. There's a reason for it. Huh. I liked Mother a hell of a lot more than I liked The Whale.
I fight for Mother.
I still defend Mother, Black Swan, even Noah. I'll defend all three of those movies. Requiem for a Dream too. It's been years, but this ain't it, as the kids say. Anyway, though, hatchet wielding hitchhiker. So we kind of left off talking about
real cinema.
Yeah, pure cinema. I always think of what Ignatiy Vishnevetsky, the film critic, said: "Pure cinema is a waste of 4 letters." But anyway, hatchet wielding hitchhiker. We left off about like how they. Colette Camden, the documentarian behind this, tries to rope in a commentary about media and like media fueling this fire of Kai the hatchet-wielding hitchhiker. Here's what ultimately bothered me. Watching this with my girlfriend, I paused it at one point, and I was shocked in a way. I was like, there's only like 17 minutes left in this thing. Like there's only like 15 minutes left. And that's when the movie feels like it starts getting started, is when they talk about the actual murder case and the murder of, I want to make sure I get his name. We mentioned his name at least once in here. The murder of the attorney in this as well. The murder of
Joseph Galfy.
Thank you, Joseph Galfy. I was trying to find it in my review over here real quick. Yeah, Joseph Galfy. But like. Camden proposes so much and discusses nothing. She they bring up the thought of media glorifying this loose cannon in Kai. Okay. The investigating officers have these several theories about the murder, none of which are gone into very much detail. And the thing that ultimately and bugged me even more after watching this, where the hell was the prison interview with Kai? And now here's the thing. Other outlets have gotten interviews with him about his reaction to this documentary. I find that wholly problematic, that not only that like other outlets, Variety talked to him, The Wrap talked to him, all these other outlets were talking to Kai about, who's not happy about this documentary, number one, but they all got interviews with him. There's no interview in this thing. There's only a clip of him in prison. And it's like, well, there's obviously some access that's allowed here. Where is the prison interview? It doesn't afford Kai an opportunity to justify his case, especially since he believes he's innocent.
I agree.
Yeah, they can't even do the true crime part well.
I agree, because that's what I was thinking like was gonna happen, and then similar to you, I moved my Xbox controller. I was like, how much time is up? Oh, 5 minutes. We're almost done. I was just like, what the hell? Where was that interview? Where was the interview with, like, why the hell wasn't the guy who got pinned between the two cars that Kai like tried saving. Why the hell wasn't he interviewed at all or showcased throughout this whole thing?
I was thinking about him the whole time.
Declined comment.
We literally had the woman that the driver that Kai was like getting a lift from. We have an interview with her getting like when the guy like squeezed her and tried choking her out from trying to save this public works guy. And it's just like we get a frame, a single frame. If you blink, you will miss it, of this guy in the courtroom in a wheelchair. And I'm just like, whoa, hold on. I didn't know he was in a wheelchair, because you guys played this off like, yeah, he got pinned by the true cars, but like everybody walked away with non-life threatening injuries and everything. And next thing you know, I see him in a wheelchair. It's like, why the hell didn't we talk about this guy? Why the hell wasn't more details at least showcased? I can understand if he doesn't want to be interviewed, but why the hell wasn't anything talked about with him? My other thing was this. We spent so much time on how the media was so blown away by the public perception that Kai had and how much it influenced them to get him on Jimmy Kimmel, a show, everything. But when it came time to show the public's opinion on Kai being accused of murder, we spent a minute of it. And it's not even a minute really talking about it. It's a minute of comments on Facebook and Twitter flashing on screen of people being like, well, what did you expect? And people being like, well, apparently he was raped, so that guy deserved to be murdered and all this stuff. And it's just like, why wasn't public opinion really brought up? And you had this one like Peter Griffin looking dude with a bow tie come in and go, yeah, well, the court of public opinion is out there, and then there's the actual court. And yeah, you know, that's about it. And it's just like, oh, thank you for breaking down the justice system that I know exists in anybody who watches this documentary. Thank you, Peter Griffin. Thank you so much.
There's a lot of holes that I'm even coming to terms with right now, and what at least you would expect from something like this. So I guess, how many documentaries has this director done? I'm asking that question.
If this is a first one, it's not bad. Don't get me wrong. You have the blueprint formula down of a good documentary. It's just your execution of it was kind of like, this is average. This is almost every documentary I've seen, like, when it comes to stuff like this. And it's like, I just want a little bit more. It really sucks, because Steve and I talked about this back on the radio days. Documentaries are one of my favorite things to go see in theaters. I love going and seeing the documentary in theater. Like, to see something like that.
And it's so rare you get the opportunity, unfortunately.
Really don't. There's the Clock Tower documentary of the sniper assassin that was in the Clock Tower.
You want to see the grainiest pictures and grainiest footage in the big screen. Yeah.
That's a great documentary.
It is a great documentary because, like, you know, they don't have footage of obviously the day that, like, you know, the guy was in the sniper tower. There's very little footage of it, so they animated segments from that, and then it's like, it's actually like they animate the like accounts so you can get like a visual perspective of like what was going down when people were trying to hide and everything. There's that.
Keith Maitland did it. Keith Maitland did that movie.
There's Won't You Be My Neighbor, which I talked about earlier, and that's like, I mean, man, that to me is a documentary that works so well in theaters because it has an ending that makes you, it interacts with you, and it makes you like feel the audience's like reaction around you to like what's happening at the end of this movie. And I'm like, that is a genius thing to do when you know, like, hey, we got a documentary going to theaters. This is like, dude, this is like, Netflix is a perfect place for it, because that's what it just feels like. It just feels like a Netflix documentary.
In so many words. But that's what aggravated me the most too. And I also felt too, it really doesn't take an investigative journalist to see too. And I know you get into like, you know, dangerous little hearsay when you try to play armchair detective over here. But even my girlfriend brought it up too. It doesn't take an investigative journalist to realize that like Kai's mother also gets really the very easy interview treatment here. And she's accused by multiple other interview subjects of mentally and physically abusing her son throughout his childhood. So like she gets off easy in a weird way.
I don't know what was up with that. Was it just like ambiguous? Was there not enough like evidence there? Like, what? I'm assuming it was like, hey, you decide for, the director was telling us, you decide for yourself. Was she guilty of this, or was Kai just troubled and just kind of made that up? Like he thought he would get away with the murder.
There's nothing wrong with leaving interpretation up to the viewer or something, but the end of the movie, there's no real call to action. There's no conclusion there's no wraparound with Kai telling his own story. There's no definitive point being made either, where in regards to the media's portrayal of this case or the investigating officers, and maybe even digging into potentially some holes in the whole murder of Galfi. There's nothing really tangible by the time this documentary ends that you can really grab onto and say like this was the point, or even walk away with any kind of idea too. And I think that this documentary is liable to leave anybody who like leaned forward during it wanting some semblance of like depth or anything really besides like this hasty epilogue that we get.
Zaslav's law. Lean forward, no, lean back.
Zaslav's law. That's gonna be that's a new Sleepless with Steve term there. I suppose we can parlay into final thoughts over here too. I mean, this is one of those documentaries where I'm fascinated by the story. And I hadn't thought about it in years until this Netflix documentary came out. I really hadn't thought about Kai in years. And it's been long enough now that like, you know, it's faded from the memery of pop culture that and the relevance of pop culture that it could use another look, and it did. And I think that there's an entertainment factor here that's good. It's almost even a little bit of a relic of its time, given how like again growing and blossoming social media was at the time, and it's worth it for a couple good interviews. I really liked how Reisbeck, what the interviewer who wound up getting the interview with Kai initially that wound up going viral, Jessup Reisbeck. I liked his perspective on this whole thing, and it was a wise move to make him the overarching voice of this thing.
He was definitely the best part about this. Anything, because they cut back to him for almost anything they talk about relating to Kai, and just having his perspective of like, look, I met this guy like at the start of it all. Like I got to interview him, I got to meet him and everything, and just like hearing his whole perspective and everything was actually way more interesting than majority of the people that get interviews in this. And sometimes I even look back, like think about it now, it's like, why did we let like the dude that was like Jimmy Kimmel's like, yeah, go find this guy, like why did he have so much screen time? Like it was just like there's even a moment like he's just like spending like 3 minutes watching the clip from Jimmy Kimmel describing like, oh, Jimmy Kimmel's so good at his craft, he's like so good when like someone's like, you know, trying to like take a hold of a scene and Jimmy can like bring it back. God, Jimmy Kimmel's so good at it. It's just like, dude, I have like something else interesting to like talk about here.
Yeah, it's like Kimmel's good. Yeah, it's kind of what he does. You know what I mean? But that whole moment. But it's 2.5 out of 4 stars with me. I think it's better entertainment than it is a good quality documentary. It's 2.5 out of 4 with me. We'll go Dom and Joe. We'll go Dom then Joe to send us home on Hatchet Wielding Hitchhiker.
Yeah, I actually feel better about it just because I went in thinking it was going to be a much cringier story. Because I didn't know the murder part at all. I did not know that part at all. So I just thought, I was like, hey, here's a kid. Like, I thought he was just going to get himself canceled at one point, where it's like, oh, it turns out he's a creep. And then he like takes pictures of feet or something without consent. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. That's the end of it. No, he straight up like is convicted for murder. It's like, oh, okay. So this actually gets way more interesting now. But yes, you gentlemen are actually poking holes in it. I didn't even know we're there. Yeah, we don't get to hear from him. We don't get as many angles or aspects as I think there could have been. They talk generically about how he gets famous, and how everyone's talking about him, but it doesn't seem like there's enough like I mean, not that it needs to be substantiated, but not enough to make it feel like that all the way. And I'll still give it a 3 out of 4 because the director did do the job. And it's a strong enough story, and Kai is such an interesting character, many faults, but an interesting enough character that he elicits so much intrigue, just exudes intrigue, period. He's the kind of guy who also got canceled lately, but he's the kind of guy that you would want to be interviewed by Channel 5, all gas, no brakes. So I don't know. It's a fascinating story but admittedly, yes, I think it could have been handled a lot better. But at the end of the day, at least it delivered that. So I'll keep it there.
What was your star rating to? I missed it briefly.
Oh, sorry. 3 out of 4. 3 out of 4.
Having a damn sneezing fit over here. Joe, what say you?
For me, Dude, I mean, like we brought up like a lot of the criticisms I had for this, and again, like this will be the nicest thing I'll say about the director and doing this documentary and everything is that I'm glad that somebody looked at this and said this will be great for a documentary because it is interesting. It's just your execution of it could have been better. It has all the right boxes for a good documentary, even a great one at that, and it's like you chose to check all the boxes when really you probably should have just checked the ones that truly mattered, which was like Kai, his mom, Jessup, the guy that started the like whole interview thing, Public, all you could break it down like that. This guy wanted to almost cover just a timeline of everything, and it's just like you barely like you kind of just graze the surface with each part of this, like each subject that goes throughout this timeline, and then when you get to the nitty gritty stuff at the end, the stuff that like was like, oh my god, like what about this? We rushed through it within like 20 minutes left of this movie. For me, it's 2 stars. I was hoping for it to be better because I was having not high hopes, but it was pulling me in when it was starting because again I did not know anything about this, and kind of watching the original footage of the the unaired interview where it's everything that he was questioned about, and then going to see the actual report and then seeing a little bit of the memery, I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm like going from this right into the documentary. I'm in the perfect headspace for this to pull me in, and it was like, okay, here we go. I'm getting it, and it's just like, damn, like if I would have just done some more research myself, I probably would have learned more about this whole thing than I was taught in the documentary. There are aspects of this that's like, oh, I didn't know anything about that, or I'm sure like no one really knows about that, like his mother, and like actually get an interview with her. But we spend so little time with someone like that when it's like I would have loved to spend more time with her and have way more pressing questions of like, well, why did you keep your kid like locked up? Like, why didn't you like actually try being a parent and stuff like that? Like, it's just like I would have loved to seen aspects of that. I really would have. But yeah, for me, it's 2 out of 4 stars.
All over the board for Hatchet Wielding Hitchhiker, but I was really primed to talk about it with you guys too.
That was a fun discussion.
It was. I had probably about a half-hour discussion about it with my girlfriend after we watched it, and that's when I messaged you guys, and I said, I think we could actually do this justice on the show, and I'm glad we did. Glad we had an open weekend. I'm sure we will have an equally riveting discussion next week when we see 80 for Brady, which has a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes
Nice.
as of now, right now, too. Nooch. Has actually gotten pretty damn decent reviews, too.
I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to give it a chance.
I am, too. I give every movie a chance.
I did read one review, and they said, despite what you may think, it is actually a very cute comedy about these 4 women, like, in the story that's there.
That's what I'm praying for, is that Tom Brady is just a framing device.
I believe that's how it's done. I can't believe
I've said that.
Tom Brady's just a framing device.
I hope Tom Brady is just a goal, a MacGuffin. He's going to get in a cameo. There's going to be some jokes. He's going to make a joke about deflated footballs. I don't care. They're going to suck his dick, not literally, just metaphorically, but like at the end of the day, as long as the majority of that movie is the 4 of these legends being, not necessarily have to be legends, but they are bringing it, getting together, that generation of Hollywood women. I hope they focus on that.
I can't believe I'm making this reference. I haven't thought of this movie probably since I reviewed it 10 years ago, but is this the female Las Vegas? Is this the female Las Vegas?
Oh my God.
I haven't thought of that damn thing in years.
Is this the female Expendables?
The other one is Going in Style, the remake that came out a few years ago. Going in Style, and, that was actually friggin' funny.
Oh,
that was hilarious.
Was it like a heist movie?
It's a heist movie.
Yeah, Morgan Freeman. Is that Michael Caine?
No. Alan Arkin.
Alan Arkin, yeah.
Okay, I was thinking.
I think Michael Caine. I think it's the 3 of them. I think it's Caine, Arkin, and and Freeman.
I remember that. Yeah,
and it's a remake of the George Burns. It's a remake of the George Burns movie directed by Martin Brest, who went on to direct Beverly Hills Cop. I always have to remind people Going in Style's a remake. The 2 people that remember it, but we'll move forward here. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this. We had to get a news story, and I decided to pluck this to get us back into talking, or at least thinking about the streaming wars. And I just saw this briefly online, and I decided to bring it up though. But Peacock kind of quietly has ended its free tier for new users. And you know what? We really missed the opportunity. I didn't think of it until yesterday. We should have called this free cock the whole time. We really should have. We can't do that anymore. So I'm sorry. I'm a little late here. I kept making the cock plus joke, I have Peacock free, the free tier. I had it at least to watch the Dan Patrick show when I worked afternoons. I used to watch Dan Patrick on there because Rich Eisen's on there too. Pro football talks on there. A lot of good sports talks on there. That's what I watch it for. But yeah, free cock has ended. For what that's worth. Now you must opt for either the $4.99 or $9.99 monthly plan. $4.99 is an ad-supported plan. The $9.99 a month is an ad-free plan. The free tier, essentially, if you didn't have it, the free tier was pretty much the ad-supported tier, except I don't think you got access to like the original shows. You didn't get access.
You didn't get access to the original shows, and also some of the legacy shows that were free on the free tier version, like stuff like Brooklyn Nine-Nine was free if you didn't pay for Peacock. But something like and like Parks and Rec, but something like The Office you had to pay for in order to get to.
That's how they get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how
everything that reminds you of The Office, but you can't get The Office.
That's actually perfect that they did they did it that way. Yeah, because I only watched Peacock again for the sports shows, and then the occasional old movie that was on there I would watch, or like a random thing I wanted to see, and I would search, and I'd be like, okay, Peacock has it. But existing users with free accounts will continue to have access to the free tier, I guess. So I guess actually my account sounds like it's okay. I think this was like the introductory thing where now if you didn't jump on that, you're not grandfathered into it. But I don't think that you're going to be grandfathered in for very long. I think little by little they're going to start expunging free accounts in favor of the subscription model. But Peacock also said last week, and I almost find this hard to believe in a way too. I mean, Dom, you're smart. How many people live in America? What is it up? Like 350 million? What's the population of America?
Yeah, about you're pretty much bang on. 350 million. Census Bureau says. I'll find out. But
about 350 million, I want to say, something like that. 320, somewhere around there. Because it said that last week Peacock crossed 20 million paid subscribers, which honestly sounds like a lot, truthfully. So I don't know.
334 million U.S. population.
Okay.
World population of 7.9 billion.
So apparently 20 million people pay for Peacock. And I don't know. I don't know. And I know it's all recency or relative bias or whatever and stuff like that. And just confirmation bias, rather, is the right word. But I feel like nobody has Peacock nor Apple TV. At least nobody I know. Or Paramount Plus. I'm like the only person I know with Paramount Plus. The only other people that have it, I have my account. You know?
Yes.
But I guess Peacock is expecting losses, which and I guess they've netted about $2.5 billion with a B dollars this year, and expected to get obviously more money this year. But the streamer also made its debut on Nielsen's The Gauge, accounting for 1% of all TV viewing time in December, but falling significantly behind the likes of, I guess you could call this the Big Five: Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, Prime Video, and HBO Max. HBO Max for the time being, though, because I got a feeling the quiet before the storm here. I got a feeling HBO Max is going to get fucked up here real quick.
Yeah.
I got a hunch by the summer that it's going to be Max and it's going to be loathsome, and I'm not looking forward to it. But and then this also comes to Netflix has continuing to be touting their password sharing thing. Did you guys see?
Is like the big we're putting a stop to this password sharing.
Did you see how this is going to work now too?
No.
I'll read this actually too, because I just saw this honestly about 20 minutes ago when we were doing the show. Netflix is going to require users to identify a quote unquote primary location for all accounts that live within the same household. users are going to need to sign into the home Wi-Fi of the primary location at least once every month, every 31 days, to ensure their device is not blocked. That's how they're going to do that.
So
the company, go on.
So if one of my friends were to sign into my Netflix account and they're not on my Wi-Fi because they don't live here, they wouldn't be able to watch my they wouldn't be able to use my Netflix to watch content.
Essentially. And here's the thing.
Mom,
here's the other.
I'm sorry.
When someone signs in, this is another note too. When someone signs into the account from a device that is not part of the primary location's Wi-Fi, or if the account is accessed persistently from another location, it will likely be blocked. So, almost sure Netflix passed over here a little nervous about this decision, understandably.
Mom, Nick, Emma,
you have to start writing apology cards.
We gotta start talking. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've been talking to my Netflix. I'll call her my Netflix account holder. I've been communicating with her recently and stuff, and she has said she's reiterated her commitment to make sure I have access. But I don't know how it's gonna work. Here's the other thing too. Here's the last part of this. To bypass this, so let's say your friend is in another household trying to access your Netflix, Joe. Hypothetically, of course. To bypass this, the main account holder will need to verify the device through a temporary code. Once verified, the traveling member, I like how it says traveling member, the traveling member can watch Netflix for 7 consecutive days. You get 1 week, Jagoff. You get 1 week. It's unclear. It's unclear if you can request multiple temp codes for following the 7-day period to avoid paying an additional account, but that's what they're looking at here. It's going to be what they're going to try to do with this is they're going to try to gouge existing account members. That's how I read this, because they want the upcharge or for you to have the privilege of having your Netflix account permanently accessible in another location. They want to charge you, the subscriber, more. Which they're hoping then, I guess, is getting people to branch off and get their own account. That's my guess. But that's kind of how it's going to work now. And we kind of laughed this off last year, but this sounds concerningly effective. There's a reason they pay high quality engineers for this type of shit.
I'm going to kind of go into that. I know we're going to be getting off air soon. I'm going to give Dom enough time too. Kind of going into the Peacock thing as well. This is something that every streaming service is doing. Disney Plus just did it, and they kind of did it like under the rug. They just sent an email like, "Oh, yeah, we're going to increase it by $1." And it's just like Netflix has done this for years now, where it's like Netflix has gone from like what it was like $8 a month to now it's like $17 a month. And it's like, if you ask me, it's like, dude, the content you guys put out, like, it's not worth the $17 a month I pay for. But dude, I'm not surprised about this. In fact, it was funny when I was on Twitter and some person tweeted out, man, like Peacock really has some of the best shows on any streaming platform. And then like you guys sent this story like literally an hour later. And it was just, it's almost like the guys that own NBC saw that and they were like, you know what, that's a good point. We should really charge for all of this. I'm not surprised by this at all. The Netflix thing, however, I know, like, you know, the whole thing on the bar below says that we're only going to talk about Peacock, but the Netflix thing makes me worried that, like, if this is successfully implemented, doesn't matter if it's liked, if it's successfully implemented and then it forces people to subscribe, don't be surprised if the other competitors that were listed in this article don't do the exact same thing, which is going to suck because, let's face it, we all share something with someone, or you are sharing something off of someone. I'm a leech. I'm also a person that lets people leech off of me when it comes to these streaming services. I won't say which ones, even though I kind of gave it away with Netflix. But it totally sucks to happen. It's something that these are probably gonna do. And like, you know, it's just like, hey, look, what became like, oh, streaming is so much better than cable. And slowly over time, we've been like, okay, well, how many streaming services are going to be out there? And now it's like, not only is there, everybody has their own streaming service. Now everybody has to pay for their own streaming services. We were all like, okay, look, we could have Paramount Plus, Peacock Plus, HBO Max, Prime Video, Hulu, Disney Plus, Shudder, all this stuff. But we can all share with one another. You can find someone to work it off of. Now, good luck with that.
We have gone, it's amazing, in 20 years' time, maybe less, maybe more. We have gone from cable to streaming. And now here in 2023, it really does feel like it's like Frontier Airlines. It's like Spirit, right? It was like you think you got it cheaper, but you're just paying piecemeal, and then ultimately it just comes out more expensive, and you just hate yourself more because now you really know what you're paying for and what you're not watching, because you're not gonna watch all that stuff. So it's so piecemeal now that it hurts, and it is fascinating how we got here. You gentlemen really nailed it. All I can say is I cannot wait for the first streaming service who does the same thing, and they will do the same thing, to say, was it traveling members? I can't wait for the first one. I can't wait for the first service to say transients. Like any transients that want to try and use the main account, the homeowners. And assume they're the homeowner.
Don't be surprised if there's tiers.
Yeah, I guess I'll also,
if there's tiers where it's like one permanent traveling member, where it's like, okay, you get one member that can have access
one
anywhere.
freebie.
Yeah.
You get a sole transient.
Or like, hey, you can pay half, like a plus 50% for another person, and then another plus 25% of your monthly to a third person, et cetera, something like that. Then there's the cause and effect, which is going to be very difficult to measure. But it's like, okay, as streaming gets more stringent, are we going to see a return to piracy? Are we going to see a return to physical media? Are we going to see a return to, I guess those are the big ones, but like, more seeding, more Pirate Bay 2.0, although I think Pirate Bay is still around. I don't know. More people that are going to give it up and just be like, you know what? From like 2023 to 2026, there was a suspicious rise in YouTube subscriptions. Just in general, more people making YouTube accounts, more people paying on Patreon. I don't know. That's a the
piracy argument's interesting though, because I mean, nowadays we talked about this a ton during COVID and everything. When HBO made the decision, when Warner made the decision to send their catalog to day and date streaming, I talked about this extensively. I said nowadays, like when it comes to piracy, movies in theaters are still protected in a way that it still takes a couple of weeks for a clean print for those to come to the streaming sites. More often than not, you still get that cam shit a lot of the time, from what I've seen. But now, like stuff that is on streaming gets pirated like that because it's a clean 1080p rip. It's a clean rip. It's a digital file. It's a digital file. It's way easier. And anything that's up on Netflix that gets released, Hatchet Wielding Hitchhiker, I'm sure, was on all the piracy sites the day it dropped. Theater is like the last bastion of protection, at least temporarily. It gives you like a Sonic invincibility shield for a few weeks. It gives you the after hit invincibility for like a couple of weeks. Or if you're Skinamarink and you just get completely screwed right out of the gate, but it's interesting. It's going to be interesting when they implement this. I say that much. It'll be intriguing when they implement it, because then we can see how it directly affects, like people. And I long for the day that it happens, because I almost think the Twitter discourse is going to be worth a discussion in itself.
When one or two of them, particularly Netflix, when they pull the trigger and when they cascade into a domino effect, it's a good. I don't think we're going to see like a crash, but it might be a phenomenon where it's like the video game crash of the 80s. I don't even know. I that's a shoot from the hip comparison, but it is going to be interesting if it cascades. And
it's already starting to get as frustrating as cable in some parts with the bundling and shit.
Exactly. And don't be like,
Fubo.
Don't be surprised if it's like literally like I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really watch too much of Netflix. I only pay for it, like, because, like, someone is giving me their HBO Max, someone's giving me their... And it's like, all right, well, if I'm getting that, like, I'll make sure the subscription to Netflix is renewed.
Yeah, you got to have one account that like mine is Disney Plus. Mine's Disney Plus. You got to have something to give.
I need my baseball trading card so that way I can get their baseball. It's like, it's just like
leverage.
You can't be a leech. You can't be a leech.
Now that it's been like severed, or it will get severed, and eventually the others may follow. I shouldn't even say may, will follow. It's like, don't be surprised if people are like, well, screw it. I mean, I was only paying for Netflix because I got Ron's HBO Max. Like, I'm just gonna get rid of it entirely now.
Oh man, yeah, it's gonna cause some fights. I'll say that much.
Netflix is gonna cancel my account. Like they're just gonna be like,
oh yeah, well, we're gonna go to watch. I'm gonna go to watch you people on Saturday, and it's just gonna be the big Netflix red letters. Go fuck yourself. Done.
That was a good one.
With a lock, with a lock and like a gif of like chains.
Yeah, instead of like the end that like pops up like the Netflix logo, it's just the lock. Gotcha.
Or it's that like that noise that always scares the crap out of my cats whenever you go to like stream something that dun that like almost Law and Order thing. It's just gonna be a middle finger graphic. Lord have mercy. At any rate, that's our show butting up against intermission number 2. So that is time to end the show. I'm Steve Pulaski. Been a great episode. Next week we're back for 80 for Brady, which has got this crew jazzed like June. I'm excited to watch that. I'm more excited to watch Knock at the Cabin tomorrow, though. I'm more excited to go after work and see Knock at the Cabin. We'll be talking about 80 for Brady, though, next week, along with whatever news tidbits come across the Sleepless with Steve desk. Again, send your congratulations and your flowers to Dominic and Chelsea for tying the knot over the weekend at a phenomenal wedding. You got to hear a little bit of a recap to start the show. But in the meantime, we will be here next Wednesday, same time, same place, 6:30 Central Time for Joe Viso, the newly married, newlywed Dominic Guanzon, and yours truly. This has been Sleepless with Steve.